Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this session. And tonight we are going to present the topic, Meditating Minds, the Soul's Quiet Power. The mind is always active, yet beneath its noise lies a quiet, steady power. Meditation is the art of turning attention inwards to experience the soul's own stillness and strength. In this session, discover how the simple act of awareness can transform stress into clarity and busyness into balance, even in the midst of a city that never sleeps. So we have Brother Ananta, and he will guide us through how to use our mind to make the mind our best friend, so we can survive in New York City.
Thank you very much. And as always, we're very pleased to have you join us, those of you on Zoom, and especially those of you who braved the weather to be here in person. You always get a very special welcome. So thank you. Okay, so as Brother Jose was reading the agenda for tonight, it may not occur to you that you have a meditating mind, but usually when people come into a meditation class, they're usually here thinking that they need to learn to meditate. But the truth is, everything that you are, all of the characteristics and tendencies and habits that you have are a function of your own meditations, because it's that you've been focusing on those particular areas that they form part of your agenda, your character, your way of being. And so the only difference when you begin to come to classes like these is that you start to do it consciously, and you can then take responsibility for how you turn out. Because you can choose the agenda. And of course, this includes both outcomes that you might not be happy with and you want to change, and even those, or especially those that you are happy with and that you find favorable, and that others find that it's a good way of describing you and understanding you. And so the first thing that I want you to understand and appreciate about this is that we become what we meditate on. We become what we meditate on. And if I can get into this by way of some illustrations, I hope that my ability to sketch is is accurate. And so the first thing I want to draw your attention to is a kind of an understanding of how this works. Of course, we don't have enough time this evening to go through a full anatomy, but we'll cover enough so that you can leave here with a full understanding. And so, when we think of the mind, meaning the mind that we're using, that we're all using, okay. So you might say that's the mind, and then there's this intellect, and then this is the subconscious, which of course we would refer to as your Sanskars, which is a Sanskrit word. First thing to note is that what I'm indicating or illustrating as you is not your body, okay? So this is you. And you have to keep remembering that whenever you look in the mirror, that you are the seer. Okay? So this is you, and then there is this mind through which all of these thoughts that you are supposed to be managing is flowing through. And then you have this intellect, which is discerning and deciding. And then this is where all of your decisions that you have taken, all of the actions that you have taken, you might call that the storehouse. And these are the impressions that, just as you have a computer that has a hard drive and records every activity, you also have that, and this is how this functions. And so, what I want to make sure that you're also clear about is what thinking is, okay? Because you see, we're always having thoughts. And that is distinct from thinking. Even as you sit here now, there are other thoughts that are flowing through your mind. And so having thoughts is the main function of the mind. And of course, your responsibility is to decide which thoughts you're going to engage, and then what decisions you're going to make based on your thinking, okay? And so this having thoughts and thinking, we could say thinking is engaging those thoughts. And then, of course, every action that you take is preceded by whatever thought that you have been churning over and making a decision about, using the intellect to do that. And then the last and most important part about this is embodying those thoughts, meaning that's what I meant by you become what you meditate on. So you have to be very careful and conscious about the kind of thoughts that you engage in and the actions that you, as a result of that engaging, that thinking that you take, because those are the prerequisites that would then form this person that you have become. So when you're being described, people are describing what in their relationship with you project. You might be projecting confidence, you might be projecting even hostility, you might be projecting friendliness, you might be projecting fear and doubt, you might be projecting arrogance. All of those things are a function of your own thinking. And so what we want to do tonight is to have you come away with a full understanding of how this works so that you can take responsibility for the meditating that you've been doing all along. And of course, you can then be very selective about what it is you're engaging in. And so it's important to remember that you have access, we all have access to the same thoughts. And more often than not, what is happening with our thinking is that it becomes very, very automatic and reflective, and so that you're being very random about your own thinking. And to shift from how we are about thinking, where we are truly introverted. You know, introversion has somehow in many quarters seen as something negative, and that's because it is often equated with being maybe reserved or shy or antisocial and things like that. But true introversion is, as I've heard it put very well, it's becoming truly independent in terms of the perspectives that you have and how you relate to others and situations, as opposed to being out-dependent. So you're moving from without to within, and of course that's the whole structure and purpose of meditation. And so we're going to do a little exercise. We're going to get started with that. And I want you to take a few minutes to just look back at the last few days, or even just today, or as far back as you want to go. And just note down as many thoughts as you can remember that you were having. Not thoughts that you did anything with, but you just had these thoughts, and you remember having them. So for you, those of you at home, you can get a notepad and a pencil, and we'll provide those for you here. And just make a note of the thoughts that you've been having Maybe even the thoughts you've been having while you're sitting here, but it's okay. You can go back as far as you want, 24 hours or 6 days or 7 days, okay? And just write down the thoughts that you've been having. Okay, I stopped at 5, and if you have more, that's fine. We're not going to have you tell us what those thoughts are, but I wanted to establish the distinction between having thoughts and thinking. So I'll share mine with you. So. One thought that I had is that I need to do something better with my water schedule for my plants because they keep dying. So it means I need to figure out, how to water them less or more. I had that thought. I had the thought that my gloves for the winter were not warm enough, and maybe I should get a new pair. I had a thought that I should go to the barber shop. I had a thought that I have to schedule a dentist appointment. I had a thought that I should check on a friend of mine who I expect is home for the holidays. Okay? Now those are, I think, 1, 2, 3, those are about, and of those thoughts, only one I acted on. I actually went to the barber shop. Okay? So you're having thousands of thoughts, okay? And so when you understand how to function from the inside out, then what begins to happen is that you begin to manage your thinking. You know, one of the reasons that people have so much difficulty being alone is that it's not clear that there's a whole world within that they can explore and begin to organize and manage, because all of their focus has been without. And in fact, usually when people are by themselves, or even if they're not by themselves, they're mostly the moment there isn't something that they have to do, then they become very restless and uncomfortable, and they find things to do, which of course is why the television industry is so successful, because after all, even if you're not doing anything with your hands, you're busy watching something on television, or these days on your phone, or anything that keeps you busy. And so we are extroverted as opposed to introverted. And of course, if all of the influences, if all of the things that are influencing you are coming from the outside, then you are not able to be in control of what effect it's having on you. And so if you look at the things in your life, in this character, in this person that you've become, that you want to change, then you ought to be able to work backwards from that outcome, and you can actually see where that started. You can actually begin to see how you became, a compulsive television audience, or compulsive, even our eating habits gets affected by this outward focus. So understanding that is key to meditation. And of course, meditation, because it's having you focus inward, allows you to manage this traffic in a very, 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 very profound way. And you can start clearly distinguishing what thoughts you want to be paying attention to and what thoughts you need to ignore. And in fact, you want to literally be able to slow down this process as well, because it's we're living in a minefield where thoughts are all around us, because they're molecules, they're energy, and if you are susceptible, then you are easily influenced, and this is why advertising is so successful. And so, when you look at the list that you have made, you can see that whether you took action or not, that would mean that you used that thought that you were thinking. You actually engage that thought and you put it into action. Because for me to decide, okay, I'm definitely going to go to the barbershop, then I have to decide which day I'm going and how I'm getting there and arrange all the other things around it so I can get that done. And so if you're not doing that, if you're not engaging a particular thought and you're just having thoughts, you're really not thinking, even though you're thinking that you're thinking. Yes.
You mentioned the TV, watching TV, but also reading the news. And when we read the news, our mind kind of follows or start thinking about what we read.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, 99% of the news is bad news, or something that is not pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
And so the best thing to do is stop reading the news or reading something else, something that is more pleasant, more.
Well, you can be once you start being truly introverted, then that puts you at choice about what you are intaking. There is. We understand what it takes for us to be physically fit, right? In order to be physically fit, what are the things that are important?
Drink water.
Say that again?
Drink.
Yes, water. Yeah. In other words, what you're taking into the body. So you want that the body is intaking what's good, what's nourishing. So that's one very important condition in order for you to be physically fit. What else? Yeah, you have to be. Body needs exercise, and so it's nourishment, exercise, and one more very important thing. Yes, one more very important thing: rest. Okay. Well, that takes care of the external. Those same things apply internally, spiritually. And so when you think about what you are allowing into your mind, would you say that you're making yourself spiritually fit? Or there is some work that you would need to do in that regard? And that's why what you are seeing, what you are reading, what you are processing is very important. But if you're not paying attention, then you are wide open for the kind of influence that is going to have you have outcomes and characteristics and a personality that you may want to do something about. Because when something becomes habitual, it becomes part of you. That's the embodying part. So you start to embody that behavior, and that's what we mean by a sanskar. It's an impression that is now part of the subconscious, and that means that when you begin to express yourself, what is influencing that expression, that perspective, is this. Because over time, you have become what you've been meditating on. And so all of the important ways that you may want to be is available to you with the right choices that you want to be able to make. And again, I want you to think of the context for this conversation we're having as true introversion. Introversion in the true sense of the word. And you will find that once you begin to manage your thinking such that you are concerned about the outcome, you begin to have that independence. You are able to become, you achieve what we refer to as self-mastery, because you're able then to determine the thoughts that you're going to activate or not. And then, of course, you can have the intellect do its job. And I use that deliberately because our intellects are, you can say they're unlimited, okay? But they are unlimited the intellect is unlimited in its ability. It can discern anything. If you ask yourself a question, you will get an answer. The intellect will give you an answer. It may not even come right away, but you will get an answer. So the intellect has this unlimited capacity or limited ability. But it doesn't have an unlimited capacity. Meaning, if you're filling your space up with what we might call waste thoughts or unnecessary thoughts, or things that would otherwise not have any importance, then you are using space in your intellect that ought to be directed towards the things that are important. So in other words, if you free up the intellect, then it will respond, it'll be much more efficient in terms of how it is assisting you in your journey. Because we are on this journey. We assuming that whatever destination you've given yourself. Now, there's one other very important aspect to this, and that is you have to before you engage in a thought that you've decided that you need to pursue, there should be a pause, and you should want to know what your motivation is. You should want to know what your motivation is, because that will determine the value of the decision that you're making, whether it would be adverse or not. And so if the motivation is not positive, if the motivation is selfish rather than selfless, if the motivation is vengeful, if the motivation is in any way unfriendly or antagonistic, then you don't want to engage that particular thought. And so one of the ways when we talk about purification, it's the motive that determines whether the action is pure or not. And I'm sure you've been told that all actions have consequences. And so if it's a good action, then the consequences would be good. And if it's not a good action, then the consequences would not be good. And so you can see when you take this on, there's a lot for you to do internally that would keep you very busy within, but in a very productive way, in a very informative way, in a very beneficial way. And so this self-mastery is now possible because now you, this entity here, is able to be fully in charge of mind, intellect, and Sanskars. And so you start living in the way that reflects you becoming, moving away from being body conscious to soul conscious. Because now the being is engaged in its own development, and you're not catering to the body. You're not catering to the physical. You're not catering to the temporal. You're catering to the eternal. And in this direction, time, you become, this self-mastery also means that you begin to master time, which is the way it ought to be, instead of the other way around. And so the ideas that we're discussing with you here is to move you from focusing, having your focus without and responding to what's going on without, and focusing within and taking responsibility for that. And that puts you at cause of whatever you're dealing with rather than at a fact. Does that make sense? Any comments or questions you have about that? Any thoughts that are coming up? Any, especially opposing thoughts?
I think I like the idea of...
Hold on one second. If you could use the microphone so that so those on Zoom can hear you.
I think I like the idea of pausing to check on the motive.
Yeah, the motive, yeah.
Right, because I usually like to act right away, but it gets me in trouble. Right,
Yes.
so
Yes, indeed, yeah.
I definitely like that idea of taking a pause
Yeah.
to reflect.
Yeah. And the most important thing about that is that you, in doing so, you're identifying with the being. You're acknowledging that you are not your thoughts. sometimes it's very clear that we understand that we are not our bodies. But it's not as clear that you are not your thoughts. You have thoughts, just as you have a body. The thoughts are there for you to activate or not. And so when you take this on, what you are beginning to do is to have that understanding and the separation between you and your body. And the most profound thing about that is that in addition to being master of this, you become master of time and space and energy. Because when we are fully in charge, even the elements become our servants, because that's the way it's supposed to be. But that isn't the case because we're not functioning at our highest level. We're really functioning at a very, very low level. And we've surrendered all of our power to outside forces, other people, the elements, the job, the wife, the husband, the children, the debts, or the money, whatever it is. In other words, it's all you, as we call it. You've made the drama, you've made the story that you are this actor engaging with. You've put that in charge. And so you are at its mercy. So we are at the mercy of time. We are at the mercy of the job. We are at the mercy of the people we are interacting with. And when you begin to take these steps that we're discussing here, then that begins to change. And this is why we said in this summary here that the mind is always active, yet beneath its noise lies a quiet, steady power. So this is how you access that power. You're powerful beyond measure. You are making things happen all the time, but you're not able to take responsibility for it. You don't even realize you're the one that's everything that's happening in your life is your own creation. And so beneath its noise lies a quiet, steady power. And meditation is the art of turning attention inward to experience the soul's own stillness and strength. This is you, your stillness and strength. And so this awareness, this understanding can transform stress into clarity, busyness into balance, and have you at ease because you are in charge. So you are not your thoughts. You are the thinker that has the thoughts. And of course, it is when you're exercising this wisdom, it is very important to think before engaging, in a particular activity about why am I doing this? And that is the most important question you can ask. You become a child again, you know. If you've been around children, you know the question they ask all the time until you tell them to shut up. Give her the microphone.
Om Shanti. How much do you monitor? Like it's taxing to monitor everything, and then sometimes when it's like already in a stronger flow, when you catch it, like how do you transform it or like let go of that without, if you're already like caught up in that train of thought?
Okay, how do you let go of the tendency to just be automatic? Is that what you mean?
Like if you're having a negative thought,
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned, right, like you want to transform it.
Yeah.
But sometimes when the flow of the negative thought is very like pressing, where you feel very involved, like you mentioned, you are not the thought, but you are in the moment feeling like you are in the
Yeah,
the thought.
I understand the question.
How do you then
So,
separate yourself?
There's an important question you need to ask, especially when your emotions are negative. And this is something that we forget, is that we are the ones that give everything meaning. Nothing has meaning in and of itself. And so the question you should ask is, what am I making this mean? Because it's you that's giving it that meaning. So what am I making this mean? And of course, whatever answers you get, then you want to know, well, why am I making it mean that? It doesn't have to be that, and maybe it isn't that at all. And then that allows you to change the perspective. The perspective is yours. So keep that question around. In addition to motive, what am I making this mean?
You're saying subconsciously I've already given meaning to that situation, and that's why I'm having like negative thought about it or the negative sensation.
So in other words, you have you're approaching it with a preconceived idea. Okay. Well, it doesn't mean that it doesn't bear re-examining. You know, I have occasion to repeat, probably in every session I have, is that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And it's not that you're just deceiving yourself, because you're in charge. The outcome is yours to decide. And so that means you're never a victim. Never a victim, never a slave, never at effect. And so that's why the motive is key. So what I want to use the time we have left right now is that all of the things that about yourself that you want to change, all of the self-change, the job change, the circumstance change, the boyfriend change, the husband, wife change, the neighborhood change, the income change, all of that rests with you. And of course, if what you have done in the past has led to, characteristics that you don't want, like I was saying before, whether you might be arrogant or feelings of inferiority or superiority or low self-esteem and all of those bad things. And of course, there are good things as well. You might be very friendly person, very forgiving person. So all of those are a function of the decisions that you've made along the way that have become your character. And so, as I was saying, all of the above defines what it means to be introverted. And you can see how insightful you become when you start looking in. And if we could coin another term, instead of outsight, you'd have much better insight. So here's our solution to all of the above. So if you decide to be in charge of your thoughts, then you can select a thought that you want to embody. And have that be the Sanskar. Because, of course, you are then able to replace the ones that you find debilitating and negative with what's positive. And we have a very comprehensive, no, just an eraser maybe? Yeah, because I think this level here allows the folks, or maybe I can, yeah, they can see it out. Just some paper towel would be fine. So we have, you hear us greeting each other all the time, Om Shanti. Yeah, so what that means. Om Shanti means I am a peaceful soul. I am a peaceful soul. So, Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti means I am a peaceful soul. You are peaceful, essentially. That's in essence who you are. But by virtue of being a soul, you also have all of the qualities that comes with that. Because after all, just as you have a physical parent whose attributes you have, you may look like them, you may sound like them, you may even have the same demeanor about things and believe the same things. Well, as we were saying earlier, everything that is physical is duplicated in the non-physical. So you have a spiritual parent. So in addition to being peaceful, you are also loveful. Okay? You're also powerful. You're also fruitful. And believe it or not, which is something you're always looking for, you're also joyful. And you're also knowledgeful. And last but not least, you're also pure. Because the soul, as a soul, you are pure until you're not. And so, what I would want that we do for the rest of the time we have, so I want you to go within, and the thought that I want you to hold is this, Om Shanti. Because you know what it means. And so if you, in going within, are holding that space, holding that thought, what will emerge is exactly what it represents. And it represents all of these things. And so just let yourself relax. And you need not repeat anything. As you know, we encourage you to have your meditation with your eyes open because it's your awareness that matters. I want you to be aware of yourself as a peaceful soul. And hold that thought. Any other thought that comes in, just reject it, just let it go, and hold the thought that you are a peaceful soul. Or any of the other qualities, joyful, loveful, knowledgeful, truthful. That is who you are. And so by embodying that is what you want as the outcome. And in your meditation at any time, be in that space. And it will alter your demeanor, alter your perspective, alter your personality, alter your characteristics, alter your relationships. You will transform. You have the power to do that. So hold that thought. Om Shanti. I am a soul full of peace. Peace is my way of being. Om Shanti. Okay, so we have unfortunately used up all of the time allotted. However, time belongs to you, and remember, you can now take your meditation consciously and not unconsciously, and that way all of your efforts then can be towards making whatever changes you want. And as I was saying earlier, you can work backwards from there and actually find where that change began. Just as maybe your grandmother is the person that has you be brushing your teeth as often as you do. Well, it could be a particular situation that you encountered a long time ago that now has you be very argumentative, or whatever it is that characteristic that you find off-putting, or other people might find off-putting, and you want to change. But you're in charge. You're in charge. And of course here, we give you the full treatment. Like I said, tonight couldn't do the whole anatomy, but we wanted to give you enough to work with. So I am trusting that we were able to do that. So thank you on Zoom. Anyone on Zoom would like to say anything before we say goodbye? There were couple of comments there. I can't read them, so.
So one is Om Shanti, and the other one is thank you.
Okay, very good.
So for our next Thursday, there will be the topic of ending all karmic cycles. There's also a session every Tuesday, soul nourishing. You can also, if you cannot make it on Thursday, you can come on Tuesday. For this coming Tuesday, the topic will be the light beneath the burden, if you wish to come on Tuesday. Or you can do both. And so then there will be another session on Thursday, December 18, the spiritual meaning of the Christmas tree, if you are interested. And on Thursday, December 25th and January 1st, the center will be closed.
And if you're not on our mailing list, please use the paper that you have and give us your email address so that we can keep you updated. And there is a full November agenda leaflet at the table, so you can
December, yeah.
Not November, December.
December.
That's right. It's
yeah.
That's right. It's the 4th of December already.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Om Shanti.
And say that and mean it.